coming on the air with that breaking news. Guilty on all counts for the Trump Organization in this big tax fraud scheme. You got the Manhattan DA saying no corporation is above the law. This is all developing in just the last couple of minutes. We'll take you live to the courtroom. We could also see criminal referrals from the January 6th committee any day now, with the panel meeting tonight to talk it out. We'll talk about those details, plus what we're learning about new subpoenas from that new special counsel at the DOJ. And in Georgia, the last voters online right now in the Warnock-Walker matchup. We'll take you live to Atlanta, where one poll worker is telling our team how the state's new voting laws mean a little bit of last-minute confusion. And a new report talking about massive missteps by the FDA, calling for new leadership, maybe even a total overhaul, why it's all got to do with that nationwide baby formula crisis. Plus, an NBC News exclusive look at how one company in Canada is using the ocean to help fight climate change. And did you drink your 8 glasses of water today? Maybe you don't have to anymore. We're breaking down a new study that basically upends like 70 years of medical advice. Get your hydro flasks ready. We'll have that later in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and we're starting with that breaking news out of New York. A jury late today has found the Trump Organization guilty on all charges in that tax fraud trial. The counts were like criminal tax fraud, falsifying business records, scheme to defraud, conspiracy, and what prosecutors said was this 15-year-long scheme to basically pay top executives off the books and give them perks. You're looking at the prosecution's star witness, Alan Weisselberg, the company's former chief financial officer, who pled guilty to 15 felony charges a few months ago in exchange for a shorter prison sentence. Now, keep in mind, right, we're talking about the Trump Organization as an entity, not Donald Trump himself personally. He has not been named here, just his business. So the penalties will be just on the business's ability to do just that, do business. You've got the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, writing in a statement, in part, this verdict sends a clear message that no one and no organization is above our laws. And we just heard from Mr. Trump's team. They say they disagree with the verdict, and they do plan to appeal. Mr. Trump himself has long railed against this investigation and others, calling this one a witch hunt. His company, Trump Org, now faces something like $1.6 million in fines, sentencing set for next month. Let me bring in Ron Allen. Ron, the jury deliberated for something like 10 hours here, just shy of that. Guilty on all 17 counts. This was kind of a slam dunk for the prosecution here.
It was, and it's significant. Donald Trump, as you say, was not named himself in this case. But this is his family business. This is Donald Trump, everything that his reputation was built on. This is a huge, stunning sign that and flag that, in fact, his family business was running a criminal enterprise of sorts. Tax fraud, conspiracy, falsifying business records. That is a stunning rebuke of what Donald Trump's business was all about, although, again, he was not named personally. There's been a statement released by Alvin Bragg, who was the Manhattan DA who brought the case, that reads in part, for 13 years, the Trump Corporation and its Trump Payroll Corporation got away with a scheme that awarded high-level executives lavish perks and compensation while intentionally concealing the benefits from the taxing authorities to avoid paying taxes. Today's verdict holds these Trump companies accountable for their long-running criminal scheme. In addition to the chief financial officer, Alan Weisselberg, who was pled guilty, testified at trial, and will now be sentenced to serve time in jail. Weisselberg, of course, was the key witness in some ways for the prosecution and the defense, because the defense claimed that these were the acts of an individual, these were the acts of Weisselberg, that these were his personal tax returns that were in question. And in their statement afterwards, they said that these were the acts of an individual, that a corporation couldn't be found guilty of these kinds of crimes. But of course, the prosecutor convinced the jury otherwise. They said that this was part of the culture of this company, that this was part of the way the Trump Organization did business. That's why this is so damning, because, again, it was a corporation that was found guilty of a crime. But, again, this was very, very close to finding Donald Trump himself, because this is his family business. And this is everything that Trump built, saying that he, in fact, was guilty of these same crimes. Hallie?
Penalty-wise, Ron, you touched on it, $1.5 million in fines, right? It's not like anybody's going to prison here, but the idea is that this would make it a little harder for the Trump Organization to actually be able to do business. It would potentially, you know, and then there's the other part of this, the sort of branding of it, right, for an organization that has now been found guilty on these significant charges.
Exactly, and the Trump business is all about brand. It's all about the big name Trump on the sides of businesses that we see here in many places. It's about his golf clubs, his real estate empire. And yes, that's what the prosecutors have been trying to do, is to get at that, since they couldn't get at Donald Trump himself. This is also one of many other cases against Donald Trump and his businesses. Remember, there's the Attorney General's of the state of New York's civil case that was brought against Trump that essentially lays out a similar case against the organization of shady business practices, you might say. That is a civil case as well. That's ongoing. There are negotiations, we understand, and there were before the case was brought, to try and resolve that. Donald Trump himself testified in a deposition where he pleaded the Fifth Amendment multiple times, as did members of his family. So what's happening is that the walls are closing in on him. And again, this was a case that was brought in New York City by a Manhattan district attorney, and the jurors were all residents of the city of New York. This is not Donald Trump's power center. And that's why the defense felt that they tried to do everything they could to keep Donald Trump out of the room, to try and keep this on Alan Weisselberg and say it was him, not Donald Trump. But they were not able to do that. The prosecution was able to convince the jury that, yes, this was the Trump Corporation, and that they made the point in their closing arguments that Donald Trump, they said, was aware of everything that was going on in this company.
Ron Allen, live for us there outside that courtroom in New York City. Ron, thank you very much for bringing us that developing news late tonight. Also developing tonight, the clock ticking down for the January 6th committee. They are meeting this evening to talk about what's up with this final report and, critically, whether they're going to issue any criminal referrals. That is the big question for this committee. And members today say, okay, there's not been a final decision. However, the chair of the committee said there's general agreement that, yeah, they are going to issue criminal referrals. He didn't say how many, who they'd go to, what for. It comes as Congress today awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest honor they can give, to U.S. Capitol Police and the Metro Police Department, who saved their lives on January 6th. I want to bring in Ryan Nobles now. So, Ryan, what's so interesting here, and the sort of drama that we've seen on this front today, has been the suggestion that, you know, yes, they're going to do criminal referrals. There was a bit of a walk back, but there is now this on-the-record conversation from Chair Benny Thompson that there is general agreement they'll move forward with criminal referrals. The question is it going to be 1, 3? Is it going to involve former President Trump? We'll talk more on the DOJ piece of it here in a second, but, like, there are real implications to this, and the decision is going to have to be made sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. And to your point about the universe under which these criminal referrals could happen, it is large. And it really isn't that big of a surprise that Benny Thompson told us today that the committee has kind of settled on the idea that they're going to refer something. Really, the bigger question is what that something will be. They could offer up more criminal contempt of Congress for members of Congress and others that have ignored their subpoenas. They could offer up information about what they believe were witnesses that lied to Congress, perjured themselves as part of this investigation. They could offer up instances of witness tampering. Those are all possible scenarios that they could send over to the Department of Justice and ask them to prosecute. And then, of course, there is the idea that they come right out and say they believe Donald Trump committed a crime when he attempted to stand in the way of a peaceful transfer of power, and that the Justice Department should prosecute that. All of that is on the table. Hallie, it looks as though they're going to do something, but they haven't settled on exactly what that something is.
The other question, too, and I'm going to get into this with Ken Delaney, who's joined me here to my left, about the symbolism here. It is symbolic. The committee would be hoping it goes beyond the symbolism here, and the timing is critical.
Yeah, both are. They have got to, by statute, wrap up their work by December 31st. And there's not going to be any leeway in that regard because Republicans are going to take control of the House on January 3rd, and there's no way that they're going to offer an extension for them to complete their work. So they've got to get it done by December 31st. When you take the holidays into account, that really means that we're looking at the week before Christmas for them to get this finished and out on the table. And you're right, the symbolism is important. It is only a symbolic gesture by the Congress, but it does carry weight. It's not as if you or I said to Merrick Garland that someone should be prosecuted for something. He wouldn't have to even pay attention to that. But when it comes from duly elected members of the United States Congress, that's something he has to pay attention to. But members of Congress have got to be careful, because if he takes a look at what they suggest and then ignores it and goes in the opposite direction, well, then future opportunities for Congress to make these suggestions are just not going to carry the same weight. So there's a lot on the line here for this committee.
Before I let you go, Ryan, we talk about all the January 6th related things that have been going down on Capitol Hill today. We'd be remiss not to talk about the Congressional Gold Medal ceremony, an emotional and somber ceremony to honor those fallen officers. And there was this moment here. Look at this. Do you see these people walking by? The family of Officer Brian Sicknick walking past Mitch McConnell, who has his hand out, declining to shake his hand. They did the same thing with Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy as well. This was intentional on their part. They are feeling frustrated that McConnell and McCarthy had been there at all to honor the life of somebody who was taken from them in this violence.
Yeah, and our Frank Thorpe caught up with the family afterwards, and they made it clear to him this was not by accident. It was intentional. They just don't feel that Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell have done enough to rectify the wrongs of January 6th, specifically as it relates to Donald Trump. And among the many things that they refused to do was the formation of an independent.
And it sounds like we lost Ryan's audio there, but you heard him talking there about the Congressional Gold Medal event today and its significance. We'll be right back. Let's stick with January 6th news, because late this afternoon, we're finding out the top elections officials in 4 key swing states, really important to former President Trump's push to overturn the legit 2020 election, got hit with subpoenas today. They were subpoenaed for anything, communications, et cetera, related to the former president. Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, county officials in those states. Keep in mind, these are all states that President Biden won. And you know who's issuing these subpoenas? The brand new special counsel for the Department of Justice, Jack Smith, the guy who was brought in last month by Attorney General Merrick Garland. Ken Delaney is with us now. And Ken, what's so interesting here is so much of the special counsel's work is done under cover of secrecy. This has now become public. These are the first significant moves that we know of by Mr. Smith. That's right. So that makes it really interesting. Also interesting, they asked the public officials not to talk about these subpoenas. It was right there in the subpoena. Please don't discuss it. But of course, things leak out, and now they're all confirming it. And what this shows is that the Justice Department, the special counsel, is seeking all communications between these local election officials and Donald Trump, his campaign committee, and a host of people, like 19 individuals, including Rudy Giuliani, Cleta Mitchell, all these lawyers and aides, Boris Epstein, who are working on efforts to try to overturn the election, to try to convince these officials to find votes where there weren't votes, et cetera. One of the central questions had been, how far along is this investigation at all at the DOJ? The issuance of these subpoenas, what does that tell you? What tea leaves are you reading from the issuance of these subpoenas that tell you how far along the investigation actually is? Well, it tells you that there's a long way to go. That's right, because this feels kind of like an early days thing that you would do. I mean, they've been investigating for some time. They have a lot of records. They've already subpoenaed many of these people on this list to get their own personal records, but now they want the other side of the conversation and everything. And, you know, when they send out subpoenas like this, it takes weeks to get them back. Then they have to process. Yeah, totally. And it's electronic information. So we're talking months before they really understand what they have. So you can read into that this investigation has a ways to go. And even once they do get that information, once the special counsel gets it, it's not like you're getting it. Ken Delaney and is a justice correspondent, right? I mean, we might not know what comes out of that for even longer. We're talking potentially, right, if let's say this investigation stretches on a year plus, you could be in the thick of the next presidential campaign. That's absolutely right. And we remember all too well from the Mueller investigation that there are a lot of leaks because people see through a soda straw certain things like these subpoenas, but we don't know what's going on until the prosecutors are ready to say we're charging or we're not charging. We may not know for some time. Ken Delaney, I'm glad to have you with us. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We are talking a lot about politics today. We got to talk more about it because it is election day. Voters are voting in Georgia, with us just hours away now from polls closing on a rainy day down south. They'll close not too long from now, 7 o'clock Eastern. We think we could get the first results not too long after that, according to Georgia officials. The Secretary of State says wait times there are super short. It's not clear why that is. It could be lower turnout. It could be high efficiency. But the big question is this. Can Herschel Walker get the massive Election Day turnout he needs to overcome what is expected to be a big early voting advantage for Senator Raphael Warnock? This race is neck and neck, right? The margins are really close here. And you might be thinking, listen, Hal, I don't live in Georgia. Why do I care? Well, are you one of our American viewers? Because this matters for the Senate, right? This matters for everybody in the country because, listen, no matter what, Democrats will control the Senate next Congress, right? 50-50 at least. So what does it matter if they get one more Democrat and make it 51-49? Well, first, they can do stuff like confirm judges a whole lot faster. You've got Vice President Kamala Harris, who wouldn't have to hang around Capitol Hill quite as much. Democrats can take a sick day, one of them, and not worry they'd sink a whole vote, right? That's not the case now since she is the tie-breaking vote. And then no one Democrat would have a ton of power. Like right now, Kyrsten Sinema, Joe Manchin, the two centrists you see on screen, they've had a lot of it over the last couple of years, right? The ability to say no and potentially sink a piece of legislation. Speaking of Manchin, he's a part of the big reason, too, why Democrats want this seat. A little bit of breathing room. Don't shoot the messenger for talking 2024 already, but Democrats have a lot of seats to defend in the 24 Senate cycle. 3 are in states that usually go for Republicans: Montana, Ohio, and yes, Joe Manchin's West Virginia. Republicans would love to lock in a Walker win now to make it easier for them 2 years from now. Shaquille Brewster's posted up at a library in Atlanta Forest where folks are voting. And, Shaq, we found out today that the Justice Department is saying it's going to look at 4 counties. I want to pull up the map: 3 around Atlanta, 1 near Macon, looking at compliance with federal voting rights laws. What's up with that? What do we know?
Well, Hallie, it's not as if there are any red flags that they know about, or at least that they're telling us. But this is something that we saw even ahead of the general election back in 2020, when then it was about 23 states, about 64 jurisdictions. They sent election monitors to different counties just to make sure that federal election law is being complied with. I think a good analogy I thought of at the time was it's as if when you were younger, your parents said, go upstairs and clean up your room, and then they kind of come up 10 minutes, 15 minutes later and just poke their head in to make sure everything is going okay. It's that kind of similar sentiment, just to make sure that what those rules are being followed.
My parents never checked on my clean room, Shaq, because it was never clean and they knew it. You talked with a poll worker because part of the backdrop here, too, beyond just the turnout question that we laid out at the top of this discussion, is Georgia's new voting laws. And you talked with one poll worker who said, yeah, that's another factor at play here. Explain that and how that's affected voting today, if at all.
Yeah, we're seeing that confusion play out at this voting location behind me. I'll tell you, most of the people who have gone in to vote, they've come out quickly and without that I voted sticker. Instead, they have instructions on their correct voting precinct. And the reason why that is because this was a popular early voting location. So this was one of their early voting locations. But for Election Day, they have a different location to go to. And according to election officials, it's not just 1 or 2 voters they're talking about, but it's the vast majority of them, at least at this precinct. Listen to what the assistant branch manager told me a little bit earlier this afternoon.
Of the people who've shown up today, we've probably turned away 2 to every 1 person who could vote here electronically. It's frustrating for the voters. It's frustrating for us because we want everyone to vote.
Earlier this afternoon, she said her team has been taking a tally, and that was about 400 voters that were turned away to go to other polling locations. But it's important to know, outside of that, and many of the voters have said they're going to that voting location a couple of minutes away immediately. Outside of that, across the state of Georgia, we're hearing from state officials that things are going smoothly. The average wait time is about 1 minute, according to the Secretary of State's office. They're attributing a lot of that to the fact that we saw that record-breaking early voting in the state of Georgia. So this is all stuff that will be watched very closely as we watch those results come in a little later today. Before
I let you go, as we watch the results come in, we will all be watching them. We will be watching them on News Now and beyond. What's the vibe check from the candidates, right? We know Walker's team. I'm going to be a total cliche and say it comes down to turnout, but it does on Election Day. Duh, we know that. But especially for Walker on Election Day, he needs people to show up to counter what is expected to be a big early voting lead for Senator Warnock here. What's the sense you're getting from talking to these campaigns?
Well, we heard from both of the candidates, and both of them said that they are expecting to win the election when we get results tonight. I'm sure that's not surprising. You hear a lot of that optimism coming from Warnock and his campaign, and you hear the same coming from Walker. But you mentioned it depends on what happens on Election Day. We know there's that record early voting. So many people came in and voted early, so it depends on who shows up and whether that gap that Warnock has right now, whether that closes.
Shaq Brewster, thank you so much. Good to see you. We'll be seeing you all night long, and I'm sure tomorrow, too. Appreciate it. A damning new report from an independent nonprofit says the FDA needs a stronger leader at its food safety program because right now there's no clear vision, and there's a need for a huge restructuring. The FDA asked for this review by the Reagan-Udall Foundation back in July because of something we talked about a ton, that nationwide baby formula crisis. A shortage that, by the way, hasn't stopped. Right now, the U.S. is down 12% of the formula it should have. Now, that's down from the 31% peak in July, but kind of similar to where we were in February during a recall that started then because at least 2 babies died from drinking powdered formula made at Abbott Labs plant in Sturgis, Michigan. They had to shut that factory down for months, a massive problem because it is the biggest formula plant in the country. And now this new report, well, it doesn't hold back, saying the agency made clear mistakes because there was little motivation and apparently no requirement to share information that could be helpful in a crisis. Dr. Natalie Azar is joining us now. Dr. Natalie, what seems clear here from this report, the FDA's got a lot of work to do in terms of how it runs safety checks, not just for baby formula, but a whole lot of the stuff that we consume. Talk me through your takeaways from this.
Yeah, absolutely, Hallie. And I think this reads as a pretty scathing indictment of the agency. And, to me, it was a little bit reminiscent of the CDC's own analysis or postmortem that it did on itself. It reads much the same way. And I think what lends it credibility is the fact that this review, this examination was commissioned by the FDA itself as it recognizes that it has an issue. And I think you can sum it up by saying that they found issues in the structure and the function of the agency. At the end of the day, they really felt like it came down to leadership and a breakdown in communication. And yes, of course, there's always issue with staffing and with funding, but they really also felt that there was such a bias towards the medical side. Remember, the FDA handles food, it handles tobacco, and it handles pharmaceuticals. And the food program has clearly been a deficient area, Hallie, and that's really what they highlighted in this report.
And when you look at what the FDA can do to actually make food safety more of a priority, is it stuff like this, a spotlight shining on the issues here? I mean, is that what it's going to take?
Yeah, I mean, and they really do, again, talk about having, a deputy commissioner just for food that will be accountable to the FDA commissioner as a whole. And they really talk about, transparency, these catchwords a little bit, but transparency and timeliness. It took 4 months for them to act once they recognized that there was a problem in this plant, and they didn't foresee what shutting down the plant would do. I mean, things that really shouldn't have happened that happened. So, they offer up some solutions, but at the end of the day, I think it will require a massive restructuring of the program and really very well-defined leadership roles so that the leaders know how to communicate effectively to everyone in the agency.
Dr. Natalie Azar, good to see you. Thank you for helping us understand this significant new report. Appreciate it. Let's take you down to Moore County, North Carolina, where the number of people out of power has actually gone up since we were last on the air. It's now at 35,000. And in just the last hour or so, we're finding out that students are probably not going to get back into school until Friday. And a curfew is still in effect. Why? Well, you're looking at it. Traffic lights don't work. No motive or suspect for what police are calling a targeted attack on power stations. With Duke Energy saying today they hope power will be back up for everyone by midnight tomorrow. But now there's these new questions about security at these facilities. One company official telling our Blaine Alexander that the plants are strong enough to prevent huge outages, but there's only so much they can do.
We maintain hundreds of thousands of miles of overhead lines, equipment that's all around. It's impossible to protect everything from any type of interaction.
Antonia Hilton is live for us in North Carolina. Antonia, you talked with a mom and a daughter who live in the area, and they are talking to you about what some in the community are saying. They wonder about the connection between this attack and an LGBTQ plus drag show in the area. Again, officials have not determined any motive here, but tell us more about what you're hearing from folks, as this is now having a continued significant impact on the community. I mean, kids out of school till Friday. That's not nothing.
Absolutely, Hallie. And, that connection or the question of a connection there is really important to address head on, because there have been a lot of rumors here. Keep in mind that when people lost power, a lot of people who live here haven't actually been able to see these news broadcasts. They haven't heard updates from law enforcement here. And so it's created this situation, this sort of vacuum of information. So, again, it's important to emphasize we have no motive, no suspect here. The law enforcement on the scene has been very open and honest about that. But we also have a situation in which this community in the days leading up to Saturday was in the midst of some really controversial and difficult conversations leading up to a drag performance show that was set for 7 p.m. that night. And The power went out in the midst of that drag show, and the performers continued on that night. But it's really about a pattern, or in the words of many residents that I've spoken to, an escalation of tensions here between right-wing activists in the area who made unfounded and harmful remarks about LGBTQ people broadly, who were very aggressively protesting their ability to host this community drag show event. And you know, when you look at the conversations, what was being said about people on social media leading up to Saturday night, it's understandable that there was this concern here. And so while we have to acknowledge that we do not have evidence, we do not have facts about motive or suspect yet, that it appears that what's happened here has really shed a light on some community divides. Take a listen to a conversation that I had with a family here.
I grew up here. I've been in the Moore County schools. I know that there are plenty of students and teachers and parents in this community who are LGBT, and they deserve to be here.
You can hear the anxiety in her voice there, and that kind of anxiety has been reflected in a lot of the conversations that I've had on and off the record here, Hallie. You know, people are anxiously waiting not just for the lights to get back on and for life to feel like it's back to normal, but for authorities to really address what happened here so that they can get a better understanding of the threat and feel safe in their community again, Hallie.
There's that piece of it, that sort of really significant piece of it. Talk to me about the more nuts and bolts piece of it, right? Like, when will life get back to normal, at least from a very logistical perspective? Being able to see a red light at a traffic stop, or turn your lights on or your heat on.
Well, what we learned at a press conference just moments ago, really, is that they are hoping that the lights will be back on, the heat will be back on around midnight going into Thursday morning. And so people have basically one more full day of this to get through. And while that might not sound like a lot of time when you're talking about it being hard driving through your own community because the lights are down, you know, there's this curfew at 9 p.m., people are asking for blankets, for food, for diapers. People are going to churches for supplies. There are some families that have been hungry these past few days because their food has perished. You know, this has wrought chaos on this community. And so while they may be getting very close to that day when the lights come on again, being here, you know, we really can't diminish just how hard these last few days have been.
Antonia Hilton, live for us down there in North Carolina. Thank you for being on top of this story, Antonia. It's good to see you. The number of people hospitalized with the flu right now is the highest it's been in 10 years. It's the peak, obviously, of the season for flu and colds. But today we're finding out more about why this gets worse always this time of year. New research says it's not just because it's cold outside. We've all got cells in the front of our noses that fight viruses and bacteria to try to stop us from getting sick. But when the temperature drops, about half those cells die. So you've essentially lost a lot of immunity protection just by even a small drop in temperature. We're all learning this from this new study out in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology. Perry Russum joins me now. And Perry, wouldn't normally be talking about like an allergy study, right, on the national news, but this one is super significant because it helps us explain why every year right around this time I'm getting texts from people with laryngitis, my kid's getting sick, I'm getting a cold. Explain more about this.
Well, things are starting to make sense for me because I was in Dallas a week ago where it was 70 degrees and got back to Chicago where it was 20, and then my nose started acting up. So the whole belief behind researchers were saying that the old belief was that we get sick when it's cold outside because we're not outside, we're inside. But they're now saying there's this mechanism in our nose that not only attacks bacteria, but also viruses. And they say when it gets to 40 degrees, that mechanism goes down 42%. So once we get to that 40-degree mark, that study found we can get sick much easier than expected. In terms of this whole runny nose thing, which is always pleasant to see, that is mucus in our body that is essentially getting rid of that virus, Hallie.
Nothing wrong with bodily functions, Perry. It happens. But I have to ask, and I know that's like a ridiculous hypothetical, which is, then is the solution to keep our noses warm? And I'm not suggesting like clown faces, but I'm saying masks in the pandemic, right? Like, regardless of how you feel about masks, they would obviously protect your face a little bit from some of the temperature drops. Maybe. Is that something doctors are talking about?
I'll tell you what, if a clown nose kept me from getting sick in the winter, I would wear one every single day.
Anchoring tomorrow,
I would look like
Perry.
Rudolph if I have to not get sick. Yeah, right.
I love that.
So researchers are specifically, researchers are just looking specifically at this temperature. There's no direct correlation with masks just yet. Doctors are always saying make sure you stay vaccinated, wear a mask. But this study only really looked at temperature. And going forward, they're trying to figure out some type of nasal spray that we could use in the winter so we can stay healthy all year round, Hallie.
I know people are eager, I am sure, for that. Perry Russell, thank you very much for that reporting. Good to see you. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, another apparent Ukrainian drone attack in Russia today at the top of the headlines. It happened near an air base near the Ukrainian border. There were some similar explosions yesterday, about 125 miles southwest of Moscow. Now, Ukraine has not directly claimed responsibility. Russia's military blamed Kyiv forces for the blast earlier this week, which they say killed 3 maintenance personnel. Number 2, the suspected shooter accused of killing 5 people at a gay nightclub in Colorado Springs, in court today, now formally charged with more than 300 counts, including murder, assault, hate crimes. The suspect appearing in person for the first time. And today, the judge says there may be even more charges to come on top of the 305 from today if more victims come forward. Number 3, people in Beijing were allowed to walk into parks and supermarkets and offices and airports without having a negative COVID test today. And if you're thinking, well, wait a second, I do that every day. Why is that a big deal? For China, it is because this is a place that had some of the world's toughest COVID restrictions. These new changes come after major protests there against China's zero COVID policy. We're going to have more on what's happening online there later on in the show. Number 4, hurricane season is technically over. But looks like nobody told the Atlantic Ocean because this rare subtropical December storm could form there this week. If one develops, it would be the first named December storm in nearly a decade. If it gets a name, the next on the list is Storm Owen. Number 5, a judge in Los Angeles has granted Kim Kardashian a restraining order against a man claiming to speak with her telepathically, according to court documents obtained by Today.com. The man's been ordered to stay at least 100 yards away from her and not to contact her in any way for 5 years. According to these documents, Kardashian said he tried to get into her home 3 times last August. When we come back, when people in China try to look for Twitter posts about those COVID protests we were talking about, they're seeing a ton of spam instead. We'll show you coming up. So have you had enough water today? And what do you consider to be enough water? Because there's a new study that says it may not be 8 cups like you're always hearing about. We're talking to a doctor about this later on this hour. But first, Twitter's gutted staff is struggling to keep up with a flood of spam accounts targeting info about China's zero COVID policies. Internet researchers say that people looking for the names of big Chinese cities are coming back with posts that include sexually explicit images and links to escort services instead of info about the protests. A digital security company not too far from Washington, D.C., says it's tracking a dramatic increase in Twitter bot activity starting in late November when the protests began to spread across China. And you know these protests. We've talked about them on this show. Extraordinary, unprecedented, some of the biggest displays of public unrest that China's seen in decades. Researchers say that Twitter's ability to contain this spam campaign, to get a handle on it, has been slowed down because of all those layoffs under Elon Musk. Kevin Collier joins us now. So it's, you know, it sounds kind of complicated, Kevin, but it's super interesting, right? This idea that protests happen in China. People go online to try to search for information on social media about these protests. Instead, they're getting a bunch of, crap, let's call it, right? And Twitter can't get a handle on all that because a lot of them are laid off because of Elon Musk. I mean, it's kind of a mess.
It is. It is. There were, according to one of the researchers I spoke with, thousands of posts an hour just flooding the zone. It's kind of, as another researcher put it, it's almost funny. You can picture it as kind of China saying, assuming it is China, this is an allegation. China has denied that they are behind this campaign, though it's difficult to imagine who else would have commissioned it. But it almost seems like break glass in terms of emergency. Oh no, we need to bury this protest footage, and so let's put a ton of not safe for work imagery along these hashtags, so that people will be distracted or maybe embarrassed and want to keep scrolling or stop looking up.
And you're saying
information.
it's not super sophisticated.
No, we've even seen from, again, pro-China influence operations that were relatively sophisticated before. And this is not. This is, oh, my gosh, there is this footage we don't want people to see, and so we're going to put a lot of explicit images out there in hopes it will deter people from being able to see the protest footage. What happens next then, right? Like, because, I mean, what changes, if anything? I mean, that seems like part of the issue. Right. I mean, Instagram has blocked it. This is happening on all the major platforms. Twitter seems to be worse than others. This might be the future of how you try to obscure protest footage. I mean, at the same time, we're able to see it. We have seen it. It's kind of putting more junk on the internet. Kevin Collier, thank you much. Appreciate you being with us and bringing us that new reporting. Coming up, a team of scientists says they think they've found a way to fight global warming by basically helping the ocean get rid of its heartburn. I promise we're going to explain that. Plus, something sticking out from the sand on a Florida beach. What do you think it is? Take a look. We've got that in the local. Do you lug around a water bottle with you like an oversized baby doll everywhere you go? I do. Because everyone's like, hey, you got to drink your water. How close are you to finishing your 8 cups of water for the day? I never hit 8 cups. But you know what? If you, like me, are behind, maybe you don't have to worry. That is because there's a new study out today that found that drinking 8 cups of water a day maybe isn't necessary. 64 ounces of water, 8 cups, has been considered the gold standard since 1945 when this recommendation was made. But it turns out researchers say, look at the science. How much water you need differs based on all these things you see on the screen. How old you are, what sex you are, how big or small you are, your activity level, climate even that you live in. Let's bring in Dr. Akshay Syal. It's like an Instagram influencer thing, right? To have these huge water bottles that's like marked off, like 10 a.m., noon, 2 p.m., you know what I mean? To make sure that people are drinking enough water. It's obviously important to stay hydrated. It sounds like we should be less focused on the number of ounces and more tuning into our bodies and what we need.
Yeah, good evening, Hallie. That's exactly it. There's no magic number here that you have to hit 64 ounces of water. And, now that I'm thinking about it, like you said, we know so many people, myself included, who are walking around with these, these big water bottles, just carrying them throughout the day. The gym bros in my hometown of Scottsdale who would walk around with gallons of water just going through them. And, this study looked at over 5,000 people and how often the water was being what they call turned over in their body, meaning they tracked the water from the time you drank it and from the time it left your body in urine. And, what they found is there's really no magic number here. The key is to listen to your body. If you're thirsty, have a drink, but don't go running for the water, just because you think you need it. That said, it's good to be drinking water, right? Like that's a net positive drink if you're going to drink something. I thought it was interesting that one of the factors mentioned here was climate. It is obvious that we need more water when it's hot out, but talk through more of how climate is a factor here. Yeah, and so that's really it. What you just said is as it gets warmer outside, you do tend to exert more activity. So it's the obvious then, basically. Well, if you're sweaty in Scottsdale, you're going to need more water than if you're shivering in New Hampshire. Exactly, but I should add, the authors on the climate note point out that the one thing they're really watching for is as temperatures start to rise, those who don't have access to water, the 2 billion people around the globe who are, have trouble with water security, how are they going to handle this intake need? That's such a good point, Dr. Akshay Syal. Dr. Syal, thank you so much. It's good to see you. As we talk about water and the climate, let's talk about how reducing the carbon getting pumped into the atmosphere to slow down global warming has been a challenge around the world. We know this, right? But did you know that the ocean absorbs more carbon than every rainforest on Earth? Well, one group of scientists is now working with and in the ocean in a brand new way to try to boost the amount of carbon it can pull from the atmosphere. Our Cynthia McFadden headed to Canada for an exclusive look at how one new company thinks it can help fight climate change in really innovative ways.
It's a little boat on a big mission. Here in Halifax Harbor, this team of scientists believe they can make a real contribution in the fight against global warming. Oceanographer Will Burt sure does.
Every scientist here on this ship has had a sense of like, now this is why I got into this.
This is the real thing.
Yeah. I mean, what more motivation does one need, right?
Here's the concept. The ocean is the world's largest absorber of carbon dioxide, but it's sucked up so much it's now too acidic, and that's a problem. Think harmful algae blooms and bleached out coral reefs. It also means the ocean can't keep up with all the carbon humans continue to pump into the air. So what to do? Give the ocean a giant antacid. That's right, add magnesium hydroxide powder to existing pipes like this one at a Halifax energy plant so it can absorb more greenhouse gases and perhaps even get healthier at the same time.
So a giant Rolade goes into that pipe, pumps it out, makes the ocean less acidic so it can absorb more of the bad carbon and suck it up.
More or less, yeah, that's about right.
Bert's job is to make sure it works. But he and his colleagues at Planetary Technologies are also determined to make sure it does no harm. A better safe than sorry approach with a range of research being funded by the company. Dalhousie University professor Hugh McIntyre is studying something he's an expert on, teeny tiny plankton.
What we're going to do is add the magnesium hydroxide to them, and then we're going to monitor what happens. So far, we have not detected any change in the growth rates, and we have been testing 10 times higher concentrations than Planetary actually intends to use.
With respect, phytoplankton ain't the only thing in the sea.
They're not, absolutely not. So we have to start somewhere, and the logical place to start is the base of the food web.
To those worried about messing with Mother Nature, Planetary's co-founders say they're just trying to amplify what rainwater and rock erosion have been doing for thousands of years.
The natural process that we're trying to replicate is something that happens all day, every day in nature.
Not fast enough to save us.
Not fast enough to save us at all. So we need to crank it up a bit.
Before they can trap a gigaton of carbon, that's 1 billion metric tons, 9 zeros, they have to figure out where to get a lot of antacid.
In order to remove a gigaton of carbon from the atmosphere, we're going to need gigatons worth of alkalinity.
One source, the leftover toxic mine waste from this shuttered asbestos mine in Quebec, which, needless to say, has to be carefully handled.
What comes out of the process is essentially this white powder here, which is magnesium hydroxide.
Why not just buy it?
The way that they're produced today produces more carbon than we would ever take out of the air. The other reason, there's just not enough of it.
We've talked to a variety of experts, a couple of whom said a gigaton of carbon reduction is just overpromising, that they don't believe that you can really do it.
For me, gigaton ambition is required. We can't look at this problem and say, oh, we're only going to do a little bit, because that's not going to make the kind of difference we need to make in the world. Ultimately, it's going to be up to society as to whether we want to solve the climate crisis and how bad we want to let it get. That's it.
I mean, do you believe in your heart of hearts this can solve the carbon problem in the atmosphere?
I think that we're going to need a whole lot of different things to solve the carbon problem. And frankly, all of the carbon removal in the world is not going to make any difference if we can't reduce our emissions first.
So this doesn't get us off the hook?
Not at all.
Hugh McIntyre agrees.
What keeps me up at night is the idea that the next generation is going to be facing a climate where massive fires, massive floods, hurricanes is just another Tuesday.
It makes the work more important, I would say.
Yes, it does. We have to find a solution. This one has the potential to be big.
Cynthia McFadden, NBC News.
NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because you couldn't possibly read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. From our Northeast Bureau, a man suspected of a shooting spree in New York City that killed 2 people yesterday has been taken into custody, according to police. At least one other person was hurt. It's not clear what the motive was. The shootings led to an all-out manhunt overnight. Officials say the 2 people who died were associates of the suspect. Out of our Southeast Bureau, archaeologists today began excavating something mysterious found buried in the sand. Look at this, in Daytona Beach Shores, Florida. There was erosion from a couple of back-to-back storms that ultimately revealed this piece of debris. Officials don't really know what it is. It's like maybe 100 feet long, a little less. There's some speculation that perhaps it's the remains of a very old ship. Over the summer, erosion on another beach about 40 minutes away exposed a ship anchor that's probably from the 1800s. Also from our Northeast Bureau, this Pennsylvania man may be one of Santa's top helpers. You see him there. He's there between the troopers. He's 96 years young, and state police say he made and donated 700 wood toys like you see there for kids. Officials say he's been giving away homemade gifts since the 1980s. I do think that should win an award for Santa's best helper. Still to come, some new controversy for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle as they get celebrated in New York City tonight. We're getting reaction from a Royals watcher on what this all means and the latest on that. Stay with us. right now, Prince Harry and Meghan are in New York City here in the U.S., gearing up to be honored at a big awards ceremony named for Robert Kennedy. It's a big deal. They'll be given the Ripple of Hope Award for what RFK's daughter, Kerry Kennedy, called a heroic step for speaking out against the structural racism in the British monarchy. But for the couple, it's coming as there's also new controversy around them today because of an image from their new Netflix trailer. Take a look. This is the tease video that came out. This shot is put up under Prince Harry speaking. It's suggesting this invasion of their privacy. It's the two of them, a camera pointed to them from above as Meghan holds Archie. But a reporter who covers the royals says, no, this is not really an invasion of privacy. This was actually an open press event with the couple, with this journalist tweeting out that this photograph used by Netflix to perhaps suggest like some sort of intrusive thing is a travesty. Royals expert Hillary Fordwich joins us now. And Hillary, we're seeing Harry and Meghan get celebrated with the award tonight. It feels like it's less about it's this particular image, but it's also generally the idea that they're out, they're getting this award as they're being very public and visible as this trailer, as this docuseries is about to drop in like 48 hours. Talk us through the reaction in the UK, what it means for them here in the US.
Yes, actually, Hallie, well, thank you for having me. There's actually been horror expressed in terms of the falsehoods. Most unfortunately, you just mentioned, you are absolutely correct. Now, that photograph, Robert Johnson tweeted it out. That's when they went to visit Archbishop Tutu in Cape Town, and he was an accredited member of the press given access, accredited. Then also in that same trailer that you referenced that this photograph is in, there's also another photograph of a press corps, a massive press with so many cameramen, and it looks like it's an actual invasion of privacy. But guess what? It was a reporter, Doug Seberg from The Sun, recognized himself in it. It was of another Harry. It was of the premiere for the Harry Potter 2, the second movie, and it was the premiere in Trafalgar Square, and they were photographing the cast from that event. So that, again, was a visual misrepresentation of press hounding when it wasn't. So this is visual deception, and it's very sad. It's either total and utter laziness by Netflix, or it's extremely dishonest, but it comes across, unfortunately, Hallie, as the latter. So the response in the UK, to answer your question directly, has been that of people being aghast in the media and online as well.
I'm sorry, Hillary. Yeah, no, we have a bit of delay, so I thought you had been finished your sentence. What's interesting here is the reason why Harry and Meghan left in the first place, right? Tying into this award tonight. You look ahead to this book coming out in January, what seems to be like a tell-all from the prince here. There is clearly a sense of them looking to position themselves now that they've stepped away from the royal family for their next chapter and their next step. This all feels like part of the rollout plan this next couple months.
Well, actually, you say that it looks like, Hallie, that's the understatement of the year, yes. Because, look, they claimed they wanted to have a private life. Okay, if you want a private life, do you remember the photograph of Harry on the lake up in Canada? He looked so happy with Archie in his arms. I think everybody would have totally been supportive. I covered the royal wedding when they were married back in 2018. The British public was so supportive, welcomed them with open arms. And I think everyone, well, I can't speak for everyone, but most people would have understood if they did want a private life by a lake in Canada. If one wants privacy and one does want to protect one's family, you shouldn't go to LA, hire 3 press firms, now all of this media taking nearly $100 million to do what? To actually have photographs of your private life. And with regard to the trailer, Hallie, that you've referenced and you're showing now to our audience, a few things. When anyone has a private crying moment in their home, do you say, oh, excuse me, wait, let's find a neighbor, let's find a friend, or the press to come in and take a photograph of us? Were these private moments or were they stage moments? We all remember when Meghan Markle claimed on air that she could cry in an instant, and this looks very much staged, to say the very least.
We will see when this docuseries comes out beginning on Thursday. Hillary Fordwich, thank you very much. That does it for us for this hour. We'll have more for you here tomorrow. Same time, same place. Good to have you with us, as always. Thank you for being here. More coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.